Okay. And yeah, our presentation for August is with Mary Martineau. Did I pronounce your last name right?
Yes,
Okay, good.
you got
Um,
it right.
okay, good. And her presentation tonight is Grief and Trauma. It's Complicated. So I'm going to read you a little bit about Mary. Mary Martineau is a licensed clinical social worker in private practice, working primarily with Medicare clients and individuals seeking therapy for grief and trauma using body-mind modalities. Mary has experience as a hospice social worker and care manager in a geriatric clinic and has helped in providing care to this underserved population. She received her master's of social work with an emphasis in gerontology from the University of Utah in 2011. She is also a grief group facilitator for over 15 years for Caring Connections, a hope and comfort in grief program at the U of U College of Nursing. She facilitates grief groups for adults grieving the death of a family member or friend to disease, suicide, substance use, or homicide. She is a co-educator with Kathie Supiano, Director of Caring Connections, providing grief training to practitioners and clinics throughout Utah for 4 years. She's also level two certified in internal family systems and natural processing, and level two trained in EMDR, and level one certified in mindfulness-based stress reduction. Mary is a lifelong Utahn with a stint in Paris and France. Interests include painting, sculpture, and gardening, and spending time in Red Rock Country and spoiling her grandcats. So, with no further ado, I am going to turn the time over to you, Mary.
Hey, thank you. It's so fun to get together with you tonight and explore grief and trauma together and the modalities and the case scenarios that I'll be presenting tonight. So, the first thing I want to do is share my screen because I am going to do a PowerPoint because it helps me know what I'm doing. So I hope it's not too killer and boring. So here we go. Oh, and by the way, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in chat, and I will have plenty of time at the end to answer any questions you might have. Hopefully, my presentation will be answering your questions as we go along. So, grief and trauma, it is complicated. And why is it not? Oh no, it's not going forward. What do I need to do? Oh, there it is. Hit the wrong button. Got it. Okay. So what we're going to be doing tonight is having an overview of grief, models, symptoms, and types of grief. So we can kind of get an understanding of it. And then we're going to have four case scenarios of clients I have worked with. Sometimes they're composites of clients, and everything is hidden. There's no identifying information about them. But it's going to be following the arc of how grief therapy turns into trauma therapy. When I started into school, my goal was to become a grief therapist and working with older adults. So I learned everything. I got my license for my licensed clinical social worker. I put out my shingle as a grief therapist, and I very quickly realized that the clients I was seeing needed trauma care. It wasn't just grief, because we typically don't see the folks who have moved through grief successfully. So I very quickly got trained in different trauma modalities, which I use throughout all of my sessions with my grief clients. Then, so there'll be space for questions. And then if you'd like to stay, I will provide meditation for compassion fatigue that we all can use and I use all the time for myself. So that's a little gift at the end for putting up with a PowerPoint. So in this country, we have this model of grief that is the 5 stages of grief. And we love it because it's 5 neat stages. You move through it and boom, you're done. That is not how grief works. And actually, the 5 stages of grief came from Kubler-Ross, who was studying the grief that occurred when someone got a terminal diagnosis, being told, we cannot treat you any further, you are going to die. And that is where the 5 stages of grief came from, but it got adopted as the model of grief. So I've had people come in and say, I've done all the stages and I still feel awful. What did I do wrong? Well, nothing, because this is what grief actually looks like. It is messy, it is difficult, it is confusing, and it's painful. So the model that I like, that I gained working with Kathie Supiano through Caring Connections, is it is a spiral that we move up in to recovery, or who am I now? We used to say acceptance. Well, the acceptance can't happen a lot of the time. It's unacceptable what has happened. So it's sometimes referred to as recovery or a new normal, which people have begun to really hate. I used that for a long time. People don't like that. Could be a new chapter, turning a page, a new chapter, or recovery. And how is recovery? We recover from a broken bone, but it's still not what it was before, right? But we're recovered. And it's who am I now? Who was I? Who am I becoming? Who am I now? And that continues to change as we move through and past grief. So there's the initial shock. Boom, your life has changed forever. And you start to move out of it. But it takes time. Initial shock, that's all we can do is experience shock. When we start to move out, the people have stopped bringing casseroles. It's time to wash them and return them. And it's like, I've got to feed myself. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I can't eat. I'm going to go get some cereal and milk. I can do that. I'm sitting on the edge of my bed and I get my socks on and I start to cry and I get stuck again. I start crying. I cry. My person will never put on their favorite yellow socks again. I get it together. I dry my tears. I get in the car. I drive to the grocery store. I'm doing pretty good. I get to the cereal section. Boom. There's their favorite cereal, Cocoa Puffs. And I start crying. And I fall back into not being able to function as well. I go back down. I pull it together. I go get my milk. I'm doing okay. It's like all I have to do is pay for this, get in my car and go home. I'll be okay. And the checker says, where's your person? Boom. You go back down into grief. It's a spiral. And then you either tell them or you leave the store or you just say, okay. You get to your car and you cry. And you get home, you pour your cereal, you forget to put the milk away, you leave it on the counter. You can only eat half of it, but you get some food in your body, and then you have to go to bed and cry. So we move up and we move down. But our goal is to move through grief from the shock of the loss, moving through grief to who am I now? And that is our job, to help people move through their grief, companion them through their grief. So people will come in and say, I'm stuck. I can't get past this. This keeps coming up. I'm not doing it right. Right. So normal grief responses are, we all know sorrow, and that's what we think grief is. That's mourning. That is the sorrow of losing a person. But grief is also anger, guilt, fear, doubt, relief, and then immediate shame. How can I possibly feel relief after caring for this person for all these years? They finally died. I feel relief. Now I feel shame. Yearning, loneliness. That is all grief. And we can get stuck on any of those things, which merely means it's something that needs to be attended to, something we need help with. And that's why we see grievers in our office or in grief groups. So again, our goal is recovery. Who am I becoming? Who am I now? Who will I be in the future? The shock wears off, the suffering lessens, and we can continue with our life moving through. I didn't realize that this would be blocked. I don't know if you all have it this way, but it's kind of blocking half of the slides. I don't know what it's doing for you. So I'm worrying about something that's probably not a problem. Anyway, here's what I back on it. So,
I see your slides.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you. What happens in grief is dysregulation, and especially when a life partner dies. If you've been with someone for many years, the loss dysregulates us with attachment, our identity, and our sense of safety. They're all disrupted. When we are with people in whatever way, but certainly in a household, there is co-regulation going on all the time, emotional, physical, energetically, spiritually. I mean, like right now, I'm kind of co-regulating with the people I can see on my screen, right? I can see you're paying attention. We co-regulate with our people all the time, watching for those microaggressions, the tone of voice, and it helps, it either elevates us or helps us calm down. There's also a physical aspect to this of hormones that are we express to each other, energy fields, I think, right? So we are regulated with our person, whatever that looks like, and now that's suddenly gone. We also have an internal clock. A lot of our brain keeps track of the people we care about. Right now, I can probably tell you pretty close where all of my family members are and maybe what they're doing. My brain knows this. We do that with our partners. And it's a daily clock of this is who gets up first and makes the coffee. What does morning look like? What conversation do we have as the day goes on? When is dinner? When do we have to start preparing dinner? Who cleans up? What do we do to relax? When do we start getting ready for bed? Do we do it together or separately? But there's still this time consciousness of our days and our weeks and our years. So we have an internal clock that's completely disrupted now because that person's not there. We lose our sounding boards. Women, well, people, I mostly see women. Women say, I have to make this big decision. I don't know how to do it. we always talked about it and we came to a decision together. That's gone. Also, it's knowledge, as simple as how do you keep a clean house? How do you put gas in the car? How does sprinklers work in the yard? How do you do laundry? Who holds the contact information for everyone in our life? When are people's birthdays? How are we going to do Thanksgiving? So there's a lot of dysregulation that happens with loss. And we get symptoms that happen to our body, our brain, our heart, our soul. So cognitive symptoms is what I call grief brain. Can't concentrate or make decision, feeling foggy, disconnected from reality, forgetfulness. Grieving people often find it difficult or impossible to concentrate to read. Brain just can't do it. The brain is completely rewiring to a new reality, and sometimes a very brutal new reality. Brain not working, grief brain. There's also physical symptoms. Grief affects our bodies. Fatigue, exhaustion, low energy. It is exhausting to be grieving. It takes so much energy to do it. A lot of digestive issues. And if we know about polyvagal theory, there's all of those nerve endings activated in the gut and the stomach. And it really affects our bodies that way. So a lot of sleep disturbances, a lot of insomnia, a lot of bad dreams that wake the person up. Sometimes oversleeping, but mostly what I run across is insomnia. Because, for one thing, it is the time that the brain is quiet enough, it can start processing what is happening. And that wakes us up, and then we're up for the night. So, a lot of sleep disturbances, a lot of aches in the body, tightness and tension. And there's also can be chest tightness, shortness of breath, or heart palpitations. This is stressful, and our bodies experience it. Okay. And speaking of stress hormones, this is really fascinating new information, fairly new information coming out, is it is incredibly important to cry. We cry for a reason during grief. And you can see these tears that have been looked at under a microscope, and you can see how different they are, how different the tears of grief are, the structure of them, than what we get when we slice an onion. And look how complex tears of change are. Tears of grief, tears of change, huge change in our lives, right? And emotional tears are different emotionally. They are involved in the excretion of hormones. So when we are stressed, we get flooded in cortisol. Crying releases the cortisol. So it's releasing this buildup. When we cry, it's like it builds, it builds, it builds. It peaks and then it releases. And if we allow it, it can be painful and terrifying, but if we can let it crest and release, then we have oxytocin that's released for social bonding and emotional attachment. Endorphins are released after crying. Isn't that wild? We do feel better after we cry. Endorphins are released. Prolactin is part of this in producing tears, and women tend to produce more tears and men fewer tears and less crying because they don't have that prolactin connection. and oxytocin, connection of social bonding and emotional attachment. So men typically cry less because of hormones. We do know that crying triggers the parasympathetic activity, which is what we're doing with EMDR and IFS. EMDR, typically bilateral stimulation, is calming down the nervous system. And there's vagal rebound, which is reactivating and bringing back more positive energy after crying. There's that building and the release, and we feel better. And suppressed tears are correlated with stress-induced illnesses. So one of the things I do is help people cry. People walk into my office and say, I don't know what's wrong with me. I start crying the second I walk in this room, and I'm like, that's what's supposed to be happening. Come on in. Let's dig in. This is a safe place to cry. So tears are really important. There's behavioral symptoms, a lot of anger and irritability. Just can't put up with your crap anymore. I can't do this. Don't have the energy, don't have the bandwidth. It can be a lot of withdrawal from social activities or relationships. And this can be for several reasons. Some of it can be just fatigue, just not having the ability, the energy to make the connection. But oftentimes the relationships are not helpful because we are really bad at supporting grievers in this culture. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But there is withdrawal socially, which can be okay. But then, of course, not enough is bad. So it's finding the right ways and the right levels. A lot of avoidance, of course. And there's also engaging in routines in a frozen way, just being a robot and getting stuff done. That's kind of a coping skill in my mind. It's like you can only got so much energy, you're going to do what you can do. And social symptoms, and especially in this society, feeling isolated or misunderstood by others because people just want to fix you. They don't want to be with you as you're uncomfortable. And it's very hard to sit with a grieving person. So they are isolated and misunderstood. Due to energy and concentration and grief, it's hard to go back to work, to school, or engage in family responsibilities. And there can be strained relationships because of emotional volatility or withholding of emotions, but also families can be blown apart by this. Families can either come together or be blown apart for all kinds of reasons. And we'll talk about more of that later too. Interestingly, there are definitely spiritual symptoms, questioning beliefs, purpose or meaning of life, anger at God, feeling forsaken. There's also searching for the comfort or connection with the deceased. I have a number of clients and have worked with people who have gone to seances or to, I forget what they're called, but connecting with their person, and it's incredibly helpful for them. I don't, as long as it's not damaging, great, right? But also people often, especially in the early stages of mourning, they experience visions, dreams, really powerful dreams, or sensing the presence of a loved one. And this is very common. It can be frightening, but it's common. I don't know, they're actually there. I don't know. Or it's the brain searching for and finding something to hold on to. And it's usually comforting and sometimes very distressing. So that can be something, if he came and stood at my bedroom door, how was that for you? Never making assumptions, right? So overview of grief in that way. Now we're going to talk about types of grief. So there's normal or uncomplicated grief, normal grief, whatever that looks like. Most people move through their grief successfully and they don't need extra interventions if they have the support of family or friends or their spirituality, and they can move through it. There are other types of grief that I call traumatic grief that need assistance. And we're going to, in our case scenarios, work through these. Anticipatory grief, particularly with caregivers. If you've been caring for someone with dementia for 10 years, you've been grieving for 10 years. If you've been caring for someone with cancer, you have been grieving as they get sicker and sicker. So there's that grief. There's sudden or unexpected grief, delayed or inhibited grief, disenfranchised grief, unsupported grief, cumulative grief, or prolonged grief. There are others than that, but these are just the ones I see most often and that I'm going to focus on tonight. So David Kessler is a very well-known grief researcher and educator, and he says grief must be witnessed. And that is the hardest part, because when someone you love is in pain, you want to offer solutions or help them return to the person they were before the loss. But the person you love will never be the version of themselves they were before experiencing the loss. Your job is to love them for who they are now. Whoa. I'm taking you way ahead here. Sorry about that. So Catherine Scherer is a grief researcher. She says grief is a little bit analogous to pregnancy in the sense that it is a normal state, but it's a high risk state. The problem people have is not the experience of grief. The problem is how to learn to accept the unthinkable. So we've all heard grief is the price we pay for love. As much as we loved a person is as much as we grieve a person. And I used to say that early on. I no longer do. Lua Arthur, who is a death doula, says, they say grief is the process we pay for love. But grief shows up for the things we never loved, too. The parent who hurt us, the version of ourselves we had to bury to survive. Sometimes grief isn't tender, it's anger. It's you did this to me. It's trauma. And grief cracks us open. It's one of the few times in life we get to say, not that anymore. This today. And that is how we are helping our clients move through difficult grief. And we have to understand that we all grieve differently. It depends on ourselves, how we're wired, how we're put together, our relationship with the person who died, family customs, cultural traditions, spiritual beliefs, and the cause of death. We all grieve differently, and that can be very hard in a family with everyone grieving differently and expecting everyone to be doing the same thing at the same time, because it doesn't happen. So we're going to move to our case scenarios. Our first person we're going to follow is Laura. She's a 69-year-old cisgender female, white, recently widowed. Her husband died of a traumatic brain injury. Then we're going to meet with Tony. Tony is a 52-year-old cisgender female, lesbian, and Black. She was widowed 3 years ago to with her wife with cancer. Ashley is a 43-year-old cisgender female, white, widowed 7 years ago. Her husband died of a brain aneurysm. Malia is a 53-year-old cisgender female, Pacific Islander with numerous losses. So we're going to go through their therapies or their case, how it progressed, and I'll talk a little bit about the trauma therapies I do. I'm assuming, I don't know how much you all know about trauma modalities. I'll share a little bit about that. But mostly I want you to see the arc and my thinking and conceptualizing as I am companioning someone through their grief. Okay. My modalities, I should say that up front, is I do natural processing, which is a bilateral stimulation processing. It's an offshoot of a modified EMDR. It's tapping. It's taught by Craig Penner, and it's much more fluid. And instead of breaking it into 20 seconds, 1 minute or whatever, it's you stay with the client and help them process while tapping. I used to tap, and then COVID happened, and we had to figure out overnight how to do it online. So with my clients, virtually, I do tapping. Tapping works just great, and they can do it themselves, and they can do it for themselves when not in session. When I'm working in my office, it's typically them tapping on their legs or this, or even very gently rocking back and forth. And that is enough bilateral stimulation when people are very tender or activated and need just something very small. I, out of habit, call it EMDR, but I am doing natural processing. I also do IFS and unburdening when ready, or if they're capable of doing it. And I do a lot of mindfulness-based stress reduction, always getting grounded first and checking in with body before starting the EMDR. So that is, excuse me, that's my process. So let's meet Laura. She's 69 years old. Her husband died in July 2025 at age 71. Oh, and by the way, I put all of these as if I was seeing them right now because I could do the math and work it out that way to present this, but they aren't all current clients. Some of them are, some are not. So Jim died in at age 71. They were married 43 years. He had Parkinson's disease for 35 years of their marriage, and Laura was the main caregiver. So I'm already thinking anticipatory grief is going to be part of this. So anticipatory grief is significant loss that's imminent or expected or has just happened. It's typically the death of a loved one with terminal illness, often cancer or dementia, or something like Parkinson's. Often these caregivers have a sense of relief and then immediate guilt for feeling relief. And this is very common for caregivers. So this is how I'm starting to think about who this is, how we're going to be working together. Then she tells me that he died of a fall that resulted in significant head trauma. and he died in the ICU 12 days after being admitted. Now I'm thinking this is sudden or unexpected grief. It's a catastrophic event when a person unexpectedly and suddenly dies, often with little or no prior warning. It's typically a severe medical condition like a heart attack or an accident. It is often an unattended death, which means it now becomes a crime scene. Okay. It's complex medical and legal issue. It's treated as a crime scene, and there may need to be an autopsy. So you find your husband dead on the bathroom floor. Now the cops come and they want to know if they're seeing if you had anything to do with the death while you have the shock of finding your husband dead on the bathroom floor. So I'm thinking, okay, change gears. We're doing acute PTSD. This is going to be more trauma work. She talks about the event. He fell and he hit his head on the gutter, finding him the blood. Now the guilt comes in. I told him not to go outside alone. I was downstairs. I didn't know he was outside, but the neighbors helped, right? He was transported to another hospital. Oh, he was taken to a hospital near where they lived. They could not treat him and give him the level of trauma support he needed. So he was transported to another hospital in Salt Lake City. She had to drive herself behind the ambulance. She gets to the second hospital. The staff treated her very badly. I could hear him screaming. They wouldn't let me go in. They put me in a cold, empty waiting room. I was alone. I could still hear him screaming. Very traumatic for her. We did a number of sessions on this. He then went to the ICU where he was combative. That was very traumatic for her, but the staff treated her very well, and the kids were there to support. So it's up in this is acute PTSD. She already has some insight to it. So we started doing EMDR with this. We have several sessions. Fourth session, she comes and she says, I've got breast cancer and they're going to start treatment next week. And therapy became impossible at that point. She started treatment and I started thinking about cancer and grief. So grief causes inflammation that can cause chronic diseases. Cardiovascular or diabetes can cause it or make it worse because it shifts resources away from the antiviral functions in the system. People become more vulnerable to viruses. So grieving people often become quite ill. This also happens for caregivers because they've been under stress for 34 years and already are at a high level. The stress of the death, the stress of the grief has kicked her into new cancer. So chronic stress can increase the noradrenaline levels in the tumor and cause what was latent to become happening. So that is probably what happened with her. I'm not a doctor, but that's my thinking about it. Now, I just want to share the immune system is fascinating. It evolved to protect us against bacteria for wounds and repair tissue. So inflammation, okay? Let's send everything to take care of the bacteria. We will live, we will heal, but we don't live that way anymore. our systems evolved to predict when our stress is high and send that inflammation out to handle a wound that doesn't come. So we're living in a stressful time. We've just witnessed the death of our husband. The stress and the inflammation are big, are raised. And so cancer can come from the stress of this. So I continued working with Laura as I could. Sometimes there were very short sessions with gentle processing and support. We did a lot of mindfulness work, guided imagery. We did a little natural processing when needed. I did a lot of education about grief and about what was going on with her body. We did container exercises because there was no way she could be fully grieving at this point, so she had to put it to the side. She was able to do that after months and months. She was able to come back to therapy. And that is when she let me know that her marriage had been awful. He had been emotionally and verbally abusive during the marriage, saying he attacked me after the hysterectomy. I was the one causing all the problems. I was not fulfilling conjugal responsibility or wifely duties. I had to keep my door locked. This marital rape was happening while she was caring for him and working and supporting the family. I kept hoping it would change. I offered him a divorce. Would it have been better if I had? All that damage, I survived, and good things too. So now we are dealing with decades of trauma. So we did a lot of work and we finally were able to do some IFS. Now, I don't know if you know a lot about IFS, but IFS is the last step of it is unburdening all of the stuff you had to take on, the burdens you had to take on that were not yours to carry. And then you unload the burdens, you release and transform them, and then bring in qualities to replace the burdens. She identified 7 burdens. She didn't even tell me what all of them were, and she didn't need to. So over weeks, we unloaded the 7 burdens. And what she visualized was unloading backpacks, putting them on a sled, and pushing them over the edge of a volcano. So they're released and transformed, never ever to come back. And with the burdens gone, then you bring in the qualities that got pushed out by the burdens. And she would bring in safety, peace, competence, and laughter. It took us weeks and weeks to do this, but we were able to do it. And then came the spiritual questioning. 1 year later, this was the last day he was in this house. I am disappointed that I was in that kind of marriage. I hope he gets counseling where he is. She is a devout Mormon, and she was hoping he would get counseling where he was. And then she came to, I hope the man I married is the one I meet on the other side. Not the man she lived with and cared for, but the man she fell in love with. And she came to, I have a choice whether to be with him or not. Laura, who am I now? I can play my piano anytime I want. I can sit by the fireplace and read. There is no one hurting me. I can say now, no. So this is the arc of Laura. I can say no. I can sit and read. So this was a year of work with this woman. We worked so hard to get here. And who am I now? She knows who she is this year. This is the longest one. The others are going to be a little shorter. I got to look at time. Okay. So the next is Tony. Tony came to me, was a hospice death. She says, "Why is my grief so difficult nearly 3 years later? It was beautiful. We did everything right." Her wife, Keisha, died September 2023 at age 45. They were partners for 10 years, married for 7, and Keisha died of ovarian cancer. Keisha's death was peaceful and sacred. We were able to make it ours. It was a good death. I played Keisha's favorite music. We smoked a joint together, and I held her arms until the end. But why am I still struggling with my grief? Well, Tony divorced her husband of 20 years. She moved in with her partner, Keisha. She had a daughter at that time who was 20 years old and a son who was 18 years old. This is disenfranchised or unsupported grief. Loss not openly acknowledged or socially sanctioned or publicly accepted. Stigmatized relationships. Same-sex partner. Stigmatized death, suicide, overdose. Unrecognized grievers, grieving your coworker or friends. It's like, why are you crying? Is this somebody you worked with? Unconventional grief expressions, grieving silently. I've had many widows say to me, "I'm so proud of myself, I didn't cry at the funeral." Or showing extreme emotions. In some cultures, you tear your clothing, and you throw yourself on the coffin, or not following expected mourning rituals, and non-death losses, loss of a job, fertility, or a pet. So Tony was estranged from her son initially. They reconciled when she and Keisha were able to marry. He was the best man at their wedding, and his daughter was the flower girl. Son is very supportive, but lives in another state. The daughter is estranged since the divorce, lives in the same town, and maintains no contact. Her religious beliefs are against LGBTQ. Tony is not allowed to see her 2 grandchildren, and her daughter did not come to the funeral. Tony, who am I now? I loved my life with my wife with all my heart. I cannot change my daughter's beliefs or actions. I grieve the loss of my daughter. That was one thing we worked on. This is the loss of her daughter. I can hope for a reunion either here or in heaven. I have my son and his family, good friends, and a good life. I have hope. So now we're turning to Ashley. Her husband, Brian, died 7 years ago at age 44. They were married 10 years. She came to grief counseling because her sister told her she needed to. She didn't think she needed to. So this is delayed or inhibited grief. The grief process may begin weeks, months, or years after the loss, and it is often due to financial or legal issues. This happens with a lot of young widows. So we begin the intake. Brian always handled the money. He was an accountant. He died without a will. Ashley had to manage all the legal and financial issues. Found out there were many accounts, some were hidden. She nearly lost the house that he built them. It took her 6 years to untangle the estate. But it got really confusing really fast. She came for Brian. He was her second husband. She kept going back to Jason, which was her first husband, that she married at age 18, and their son was born in 2000. She kept going back to Jason. I really had to shift some gears here. Turns out Jason was very abusive, emotionally and mentally controlling, and he turned their son, Zach, against her. She divorced him at age 22, and Zach was 4 years old. At that point, she got an education. She got a really good job. She actually got a couple master's degrees in her life. She did very well. But what we kept coming back to, there was the first marriage, which was abusive. And where we came back to is childhood trauma. Her mother didn't want her. She didn't want me. I didn't fit in the family. We kept coming back to, where do I fit in? So grief counseling for a second husband, and we're back to childhood. Did a lot of work, a lot of EMDR, which is very good at it. We processed the first marriage and her childhood. We did a lot of work on that, and then was able to start processing the death of Brian. She mistrusted him. He handled the money. I trusted him. She didn't know anything about what was going on. And now his adult children think there should be more money in the estate. What have you done with it? And then she's remembering, in the last few years, he became more distant. And she now is wondering, what was our relationship to him? Did he love me at all? Going back to childhood trauma. So we did a lot of work around her feelings about Brian. He had adult children with a spiteful ex-wife. He decided that they each should handle their own children separately, and they did not become a blended family. She says, I don't know them. Where do I fit in? Where do I fit in again? Now she's saying they're reaching out to her. They want to support her. I feel like I need to support them for him, but I'm confused about how much contact and when. I could use some help. How and when do I ask for help? I realize my only worth is through serving others, asking for help and accepting it. So who am I now? Who will I become? I don't know. Right now, she is saying, I don't feel sad now. Maybe I did at first, but there was so much to handle. I don't want to stay in the house he built me. Is that okay? I guess I'm just numb. I miss holding his hand while falling asleep. I don't think I'll ever remarry. I'm okay. To be continued. We will see. But she has moved and through and processed so much trauma. And even, is she grieving Brian? I don't know. And what does that grief look like? So all these assumptions that we can have as therapists, that I have, is, oh, I know how this is going. I have no idea. No idea. Okay, and finally, our last one is Malia. She is 34 years old, 53 years old. Her husband, Tokoni, died 4 months ago at age 55. They were married 31 years. He had a stroke. She woke up to find him deceased in their shared bed. So here are our choices for some of the griefs. Sudden or unexpected grief. It is now a crime scene. She calls 911. They instruct her to provide CPR. He's already cold. The cops come. The paramedics come. Is this a crime scene or not? Luckily, it was not. So I think, okay, we are doing sudden unexpected grief. Well, then she tells me her mother died 6 months prior of Alzheimer's. She choked on her saliva in a Medicaid memory care. She had been the main caregiver and visited every day. So now I'm thinking, okay, sudden and unexpected death again, but in a nursing home where it was handled very differently. There was probably anticipatory grief for that death. And then I'm like, okay, which death, which grief, what's going on here? Maybe delayed or inhibited grief. Now that her husband has died, maybe delayed grief for her husband because of this. I mean, it gets very confusing. The only answer is follow your client and support them. Then she lets me know that her 26-year-old son died 3 years ago of an undetermined overdose or suicide. That means the cops were called. He was found by his girlfriend 2 days after the death. But for his death, so I'm starting to focus on each individual loss while holding all of them together. For him, that was anticipatory grief. She'd been waiting for this call for years. He was an addict. Sudden, unexpected, disenfranchised grief, suicide, overdose. Prolonged grief, 3 years. Right? And then she informs me that 3 of her male relatives died of COVID in 2020, the very, very early days of COVID. There was very short anticipatory grief with that. They went into the hospital. They could not be visited. They held vigil in the parking lot. It was a sudden, unexpected grief. It went very quickly. Delayed grief or inhibited grief because there could be no funerals. Disenfranchised grief. COVID isn't real. And that was happening. It was happening right here in Utah. And prolonged grief, once again. Right. This actually is a person I have cared for. This really is her life. Just even talking about this right now, I get teary with this. And I want you to know I cry with my clients. I sometimes hold their hand. And I go home and I cry. And I see a good friend and have lunch with her, and we go for drives and have conversations. She's also a therapist. So here is Malia. Her 3 male relatives die. Her son dies. Her mother dies. Her husband dies. And how does she manage this? Malia's an amazing person, and I've learned a lot from her. This is called cumulative grief. It's previous losses that impede the processing of current losses. We kept going back to her son's death. Honestly, that was the one that we needed to spend the most time on. We did treatment for acute PTSD with her husband, but it was mostly her son that we had to keep coming back to process. And Malia, who am I now? She's an amazing person. My community supports me. It's a strong community. I have a strong, loving family. We hold each other up. Sorry. My faith in God sustains me. We will be together again. Uh, she has done remarkably well. She occasionally comes in just for a tune-up, but honestly, it is her faith that gets her through this. It's amazing. Okay. So I have shared all of this really tough stuff with you. And in a minute, I'm going to answer any questions you might have. But I want to share with what comes now, the 1 year anniversary, the 3rd year anniversary. There's something about 7 years in my grief groups and with clients is sometimes at 7 years, people really need to come in. It is time, finally, at last, to be able to do the grief work. Something about 7. But what happens after that first year? Sometimes the second year can be harder because you've gotten through the first one partially numb, and now this is reality now. And what there can be these grief bursts where you're going along and it is back. You're like, hey, I've been doing pretty good. I think I got this under control. Bam, it is back. And that can be hard, but they come and you can ride through them. The first one, and it can be in that first year, is the headstone placement. It takes so long to get that, and then to have it placed and to see it brings everything up freshly. Cleaning out closets, anniversaries, birthdays, holidays, seasons. That timing we have within us is like, hey, that thing's coming up again. Missed milestones, graduations, birth of grandchildren, loss of others. And reminders can be pretty constant. Smells, sounds, songs, movies, places. And thinking you've got it all handled in your home, and you find that one more thing. And by the way, it is very unhelpful for most people to get rid of belongings too quickly, clean out those closets, clean out that garage, clean out that sewing room. Some people think, relatives think I'm helping. They go in and they clear everything out. And that makes the grieving process worse because we have to decide sometimes shirt by shirt, how are we going to manage this? I have to grieve this shirt. I have to grieve his tools. Right? It takes time, and it can take longer than a year to manage what are you going to do with their belongings. So I think that's my last slide. Oh, one more slide. This is a beautiful quote by Anne Lamott, the author. You will lose someone you can't live without, and your heart will be badly broken. And the bad news is that you never completely get over the loss of your beloved. But this is also good news. They live forever in your broken heart that doesn't seal back up, and you come through. It's like having a broken leg that never heals perfectly, that still hurts when the weather gets cold, but you learn to dance with a limp. So we need to learn to dance with a limp. Okay, now questions. And it looks like there's just a couple in chat. Let me take a look at those. Okay. Oh. So thank you, Stephanie. When you're using EMDR for grief, do you ever take the SUD to a zero? Basically, how do we find the balance between honoring and holding space for it excuse me, versus viewing it as something that isn't helpful? That is such a good question. First of all, I don't do the SUD. My brain doesn't work that way. I am more organic with it. Um, and honestly, typically, you usually cannot get it all the way to zero in one session. It's just too much. Um, what we can, so what I do is, so how I do the EMDR is I have them bring it up. I have them find out where they feel it in their body. What is it like? How intense is it? Can we get it lowered? And what does that feel like? Can we get it to a acceptable level that we can get them buttoned back up and sent on their way, or do we need to do a container exercise and come back for them next week? So all of it is helpful, is we just don't want to leave them in distress. So my goal always is to make sure they're the best they can be, with grounding exercises, with how are you going to take care of yourself after this session, and what do we do with this until we can meet it again. And I don't know if that answers your question or not. Um, Stephanie, did that answer your question? If you're still here. Do we want to open it up and, oh, there we go. Yes, it sounds like, yes, the modified version works best. Absolutely, because I want to be across from them and seeing what's going on. Are they out of the window of tolerance? Do I need to slow it down? And I want to be asking them, how is this feeling for you? So I will do it in, like, we'll do 20. I do 20, and so it's like we tap together 1 and 2 and 3 and all the way to 20. And sometimes it's 10. Inhale, exhale. What are you noticing? How are you feeling? And then we'll go. Yeah, modified, organic, going with it. Um, Sometimes I'll stop and we'll do grounding exercises if need be and say, let's slow down with this. Let's go back to where it started. Let's see, let's just take this tiny slice of it and work with that. So, yes. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Oh, thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
Right.
So would you consider, so all your case studies were about death, I mean, grief and
Ah,
for dying. So like, I'm just thinking of this client I have who has a brain injury, and he's,
oh,
and I've been thinking of that as like a grief and loss situation. My life is not how it was supposed to go. And
absolutely.
okay,
Yeah.
so then I'm just curious, like, what would your protocol be given that situation?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Such a good question, because it is grief of loss of ability or loss of independence. So I would start with, especially with a traumatic brain injury, how much can they process and what's going to work, right? But I start talking about, this is a huge loss. How do you feel about it? Are you sad? Are you angry? Are you fearful? Remembering that's all grief. and then saying, that sounds like grief to me. Let's explore that and see how we can support this. And sometimes just naming it is huge. It's like, yeah, I am so sad that this has happened to me, or angry, or whatever. And then exploring the different parts of it. So while I'm doing EMDR, we might be working on fear. I'm terrified this is going to happen to me, or I don't know how I'm going to live, or it's so much anger. How could he have done this? Right. So that's a good question. I didn't really say that, is I'm working on these things that we're stuck on, whatever that is: guilt, doubt, fear, um, and absolutely loss. That is, and naming it and acknowledging it. Yeah, lost, uh, you've lost ability. You've lost independence. Let's name those losses and experience what's going and process what's going on with that. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I was just curious because that's how I've been framing it in my head
Yes,
as
I would too.
as grief and loss, but I was just curious because
Mhm.
your examples were all about death. So
Yes,
that's why I
they
was
were.
asking. That's what, no, it's okay.
And I have worked with a lot of clients with dementia,
Uh-huh.
terrible loss, and the fear of that, right?
Right, right, right.
I worked for quite a while with neurological disorders like ALS,
Mm,
Parkinson's, Huntington's disease,
mm.
and working with the grief
Yeah,
of the
right, right,
of the loss of these diseases. So absolutely.
right. And then part two. So then I hear that you're doing, an EMDR variation.
Mhm.
Um, it- and then you talked about using IFS for the unburdening, but are
Uh,
you only using IFS at that point, at the
no,
unburdening, or okay.
yeah.
You're okay.
So I'm breaking all the rules. It's all woven together for
Yeah,
me.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's I've done it long enough and it's intuitive. It's like, ooh, I think the part just showed up.
hmm
Let's attend to
hmm
that. We've been tapping. Wow, there's anger.
Right,
Ooh, that sounds like a child. Let's
right.
explore that. So then we'll start. We'll either do it that session to start explore, or I'll say, hey, last week anger was really coming up. I think that's something we need to attend to, and then I'll do the IFS work with it.
Right, right, right.
And sometimes within IFS, if something's really important, um, we'll do some tapping with it.
hmm hmm hmm
It's like maybe we need a little more help processing this, or we need
Yes.
to anchor this in. So very fluid.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
strengthen something. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Another question, what kind of training did I do for natural processing? Um, I studied with Craig Penner. Um, he does really lovely in person, but I think COVID kind of changed all that. And I did train with him before COVID. I have seen that he's got some more trainings going on. So it's Craig Penner, Penner, natural processing. And so you can just Google that and see what he's got going. It's a lovely way to work with people. I'm so glad I trained with him. Am I currently accepting new clients? Yes, on a limited basis. I'm pretty full right now, but yes, I am accepting new clients, and you can reach out to me. Anyone else? Well, that sounds great. If any of you have questions, you're welcome to reach out to me, and I can help you out further. I have thought about starting a consulting group. I'm not sure if I would do, I'm not sure how to do that, but I think it could be very helpful. So that's one thing I'm thinking about.
Mary, are you okay if I share your email address
Yeah,
for people
please.
who email?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, okay. So we did talked about some really hard stuff today, and if you'd like, for the next 5 minutes, I would love to share a meditation with you to maybe help unload some of this. And I use this all the time for myself and with a lot of my clients. So let me back here. And I have a really pretty slide list. Oh, there it is. I'm getting it. Here we go. Oh, I made it go away. Anyway, I had a really pretty slide, but I'm not going to go find it. So if you'd like to close your eyes and begin by noticing your breath. Notice your body in your chair and your feet grounded, connected with the earth. Please bring to mind someone you are caring for that can exhaust you or frustrate you, or someone who suffers with whom you feel some sympathy. See the person clearly in your mind and feel the struggle in your own body. Now listen carefully to these words, letting them gently roll through your mind. Everyone is on his or her own life journey. I am not the cause of this person's suffering, or is it entirely within my power to make it go away, even if I wish I could. Moments like these are difficult to bear, yet I may still try to help if I can. Now, aware of the stress you are carrying in your body, inhale fully and deeply, drawing compassion into your body, and fill every cell with compassion, letting yourself be soothed by inhaling deeply and giving yourself the compassion you need when you experience discomfort. As you exhale, send compassion to the other person who is associated with your discomfort, or exhale compassion to living beings in general. Continue breathing compassion in and out, letting your body gradually find a natural, relaxed breathing rhythm. Breathing in for yourself and out for the other. One for me and one for you. One for me and one for you. Notice the gentle rocking motion of your body as you breathe, like the tides flowing in and out on a sea of compassion, a limitless compassion that embraces all suffering. And listen to these words once again. Everyone is on his or her own life journey. I am not the cause of this person's suffering, or is it entirely within my power to make it go away, even if I wish I could. Moments like these are difficult to bear, yet I may still try to help if I can. One for me and one for you. One for me and one for you. Like the tides flowing in and out on a sea of compassion, a limitless compassion that embraces all suffering. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes and return to this presence. Thank you. Oh, oh, thank you. Thank you, Calissa. I appreciate all of you coming tonight. I hope it was helpful. Breathe out all of this pain that I spewed to you. I hope it's helpful. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I will consider a consult group. And thank you all for the good work you do, and take gentle care of yourself. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, I hope you all, thank you everyone for attending tonight. And I hope we can just give a little round of applause for Mary for coming and talking to us about this, which grief is a natural part of life too. And so I'm super grateful that you shared your expertise with us tonight, Mary. And yeah, if you do happen to open the consult group, please share your info my way so I can, or like the consult group info my way, and I can send it out to people. Um, Again, if you are wanting a CEU, we are offering CEUs for tonight's presentation. If you can just email ticnutah@gmail.com. And I can also send you a copy of Mary's slides as well. And yeah, with that, I hope everyone has a great evening, and I hope we all find some time to take care of ourselves and our loved ones tonight. So,
Thank you. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
bye.
Thank you, Mary.